going home late. That's the kind of family that we were. And that usually meant being one of the first in Sunday school class, even beating the teachers there some weeks. And it was like that on this particular Sunday morning when I walked into my empty kindergarten classroom at Silver Hill Pentecostal Church, picked up a bright red piece of chalk from the chalk tray, and wrote, "God is love," in extra large bubble letters that filled up the entire green chalkboard. My big sister, Cindy, had just taught me how to make bubble letters. So I was bursting with pride that I had the opportunity this week to share off this important new skill. So my revered teachers, Sister Betty Metcalf and Sister Sandy Smallman, I'll never forget them, came in soon after, and to the great enjoyment of my young ego, they were appropriately impressed with the artistry and the nice godly sentiment. But not long into the class that followed, after all of the children had arrived and pretty much ignored my profundity, Sister Metcalf picked up the eraser and began to wipe over the dusty green board, much to my dismay. Except, well, I was even more dismayed when I realized that what Amy Jo Hawks was yelling to the class was true. "The chalk isn't erasing," she said. No, it wasn't. That red chalk that was, in my defense, on the chalk tray was actually a stumpy little red crayon. So the tears started, as I recall, sometime right about the time that Wendell Martinez poked me in my arm and said, "Ha ha, Misha's in so much trouble." I was about as mortified as a 6-year-old can get. Right up until Sister Metcalf scooped me into her arms in a moment of amazing grace, and I heard her deep alto laugh in my ear as she said, "Oh no one's in trouble. Don't you see, children, this is just perfect. What can erase the love of God? Nothing." Sister Smallman stood in the back of the class and clapped her hands and laughed and jumped up and down a little, as she often did when being blessed with deep revelations. Sister Metcalf picked up a piece of white chalk in a burst of inspiration, and she began quickly writing all the things that we could think to yell out that might make us feel unlovable in the eyes of God. Being naughty, cheating in school, smoking cigarettes, that was a big one, hitting your brother, disobeying your mom, cutting in line for the slide, lying, chewing gum in church, all the big sins. So then, after we had got out everything we could think to say, and she had written it all over that chalkboard around my letters, with a big dramatic flourish, she erased everything, leaving only "God is love." God is love in big, messy, wobbly red bubble letters. It is my only clear memory of a lesson from that kindergarten Sunday school class. Maybe it's the only one that counts. And I wonder if maybe, like me, your deepest memories of faith formation in your childhood have some names and faces attached to them. Maybe you have a Sister Betty Metcalf or a Sister Sandy Smallman that are God's love embodied just for you. Or maybe, like some other vivid stories that I have that I will not share here today, some people evoke something much less affirming about who God is and about who you are. Many people, like me and perhaps you, come into Unitarian Universalism as adults because the religious dogmas we were taught as children simply don't work for us anymore. We come here to get away from there. And for a while, that's enough. But maybe only for a while. We discover soon that the responsibility and great privilege of this free faith calls us to work out our own salvation, and that it's not nearly as easy as being taught, "Jesus loves me, this I know because the Bible tells me so." We don't sing that song with our children in RE class in this faith, and it's not because we don't want them to know an all-encompassing sense of being loved, no matter what. Of course we do. But we know that we cannot, in good conscience, tell them that we know of this love because it says so in a book. So, how can we know? How can we know that there is indeed a love that will not let us go? How can we know that we are made whole and perfect in the very image of wholeness and perfection, and that even at our most imperfect, we are precious in God's sight? And what even is this God, and what is God not? How do we go about the holy task of teaching our children our beloved faith? And all the while journeying in the lifelong work of faith formation for ourselves. We have no moment of conversion, no sacraments that keep us saved and sanctified, so how do we know when we are on the right path? We have not one holy text, but all of them, and if you catch it in just the right light, what text does not appear holy anyway? It's a joyful journey, but not always a simple one. This free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And I wonder if sometimes maybe I just need to take a deep breath, step away from the seminary-assigned theological readings and committed spiritual practice they tell us is essential, and the curriculum I'm trying really hard to use to convey to our coming of age youth that they, as they consider their own statements of faith, and just breathe and sit down with a double chocolate mocha and think about Sister Betty and Sister Sandy for a minute. You see, religion taught me a lot about rules. It is relationships that have taught me everything I know about faith. And I wonder if maybe that's the only place to start anyway. What if we give ourselves a break from the trying so hard to say the right things about the principles and sources and UU history and the differences and the similarities between us and them, and we do the sacred work of faith formation through relationship building first. First, not exclusively. I deeply believe in the value of teaching each other and learning from each other about what exactly makes Unitarian Universalism the vibrant faith that it is. And no one is more proud than I when my daughter corrects my out-of-covenant behavior by throwing 7 principle language back at me. We need RE. Our children and our grandparents, parents, and all of us in between need this lifelong journey of faith formation, and we are, after all, a people who do so love to learn. And I'm proud of that. And also, I think that's all supplemental and not core to building good humans. I want our children to have a Sister Betty and a Sister Sandy to tell stories about from this pulpit in 30 years. And I don't care if they remember what the lesson was about that Sunday that they got the revelation that they were loved and accepted just the way they are. Maybe we all grow into this faith by all the ways in which we learn, but above all else, may our relationships with each other be so profoundly holy and full of divine love that we know we couldn't walk away from the love of God even if we tried, because we are it. We are God's love in big, messy, wobbly red bubble letters, and we aren't going anywhere. And that may be all we need to know. So may it be. Amen.